Imagine a town, a bustling street, an ordinary day. Then, one woman steps out and begins to dance. Not a joyful dance, not a celebratory waltz, but a frantic, uncontrolled, seemingly endless jig. She can't stop. And then, another joins her, and another. Soon, hundreds of people are dancing, day and night, until their feet bleed, their bodies collapse, and some simply die. This isn't a scene from a horror film or a bizarre cult ritual. This is precisely what unfolded in 1518, an event so perplexing, so disturbing, it became known as the Dancing Plague. But what truly possessed these people? What force could compel hundreds to dance themselves to death? To unravel this chilling historical anomaly, we must transport ourselves back to Strasbourg, July of 1518. The city, nestled in the Holy Roman Empire, was not a stranger to hardship. The early 16th century was a period steeped in fear, superstition, and genuine suffering across Europe. Famine had gripped the region, leaving widespread malnutrition and a profound sense of anxiety amongst the populace. Disease was a constant specter, and the church held immense sway, often attributing inexplicable events to divine wrath or demonic possession. The air was thick with desperation, fertile ground for the bizarre. It was into this crucible of human suffering that a woman named Frau Trophea stepped out of her home on a narrow street and began to dance, alone, unbidden, relentlessly. For days she continued, her movements becoming increasingly frenzied, her eyes likely glazed over with an unbearable intensity. Her husband, her neighbors, they watched, bewildered, perhaps amused at first, then concerned, and finally terrified. Her inexplicable performance wasn't a one-off, a momentary lapse of sanity. It was the ignition point for a phenomenon that would consume the city. Within a week, more people joined her. First, a handful, then 20, 30, 60. By August, the estimates vary, but it's believed that anywhere from 400 to 700 individuals were caught in this relentless, involuntary choreography. Imagine the scene. Men and women, young and old, collapsing from exhaustion, their clothes tattered, their feet raw and bleeding, yet unable to cease their frantic movements. The sound alone must have been horrifying, a cacophony of shuffling feet, pained gasps, and the occasional shriek echoing through the cobbled streets. The authorities, initially at a loss, consulted with local physicians. Their diagnosis seems almost as strange as the plague itself. Natural disease caused by overheated blood. Their prescribed cure, more dancing. They believed that if the afflicted danced it out of their system, they would recover. So they cleared market squares, hired musicians, and even constructed a stage, urging the afflicted to continue their macabre performance. The result, predictably and tragically, was precisely the opposite of what they intended. Instead of alleviating the plague, they exacerbated it. The public spectacle, perhaps, only served to legitimize the bizarre behavior, drawing in more susceptible souls. People began to die, from heart attacks, strokes, sheer exhaustion, or perhaps a combination of all three. Bodies began to pile up. At its peak, reports say that up to 15 people were dying each day. The physician's cure was nothing short of a death sentence for many. The city was in an absolute panic. The initial bewilderment had transformed into abject terror. They tried to stop the dancing. They forbade public music, but it was too late. The invisible contagion of movement had burrowed deep into the collective psyche, manifesting as a grotesque, unstoppable force. People weren't just dancing. They were collapsing, convulsing, and dying in the streets, an unholy procession powered by an unknown tormentor. The city, once bustling, was now a stage for a tragic, bewildering ballet of death. So, what really caused this terrifying phenomenon? Centuries later, historians, psychologists, and scientists have offered numerous theories. The initial medical explanation of overheated blood is, of course, discarded. One prominent theory points to ergotism, a poisoning caused by fungus, Claviceps purpurea, that grows on rye and other cereals. This fungus produces alkaloids that can cause convulsions, hallucinations, and muscle spasms, symptoms that might appear to be uncontrollable dancing. However, ergotism typically causes gangrene, which wasn't widely reported among the dancers. Furthermore, while it could explain some individual cases, it struggles to account for the sheer scale and the specifically dancing manifestation across hundreds of people, all exhibiting the same fundamental compulsion. Another, more compelling explanation delves into the realm of mass psychogenic illness, or mass hysteria. In a time of extreme stress, famine, and belief in supernatural retribution, the human mind can play powerful tricks. This theory suggests that the dancers were not physically ill in the traditional sense, but rather suffering from an extreme stress-induced psychological disorder. The fear, the trauma, the collective anxiety, all could have triggered a powerful suggestion, an unconscious amplification of symptoms. The initial dancer, Frau Trofea, might have been suffering from a genuine neurological disorder, or perhaps intense stress manifesting in physical spasms. Her public display, against the backdrop of widespread fear and superstitious beliefs, could have created a template, a social contagion that spread rapidly through the highly suggestible population. People, desperate for an explanation for their suffering, might have unconsciously adopted the coping mechanism or manifestation of distress they saw around them. The belief in St. Vitus's dance, a medieval disease associated with uncontrolled movements and often linked to divine punishment, may have also played a role, providing a cultural script for the affliction. To this day, the true singular cause of the dancing plague remains a chilling historical enigma, a stark reminder of the fragile line between the rational and the inexplicable. While there's no consensus, the most favored explanation leans heavily towards mass psychogenic illness, amplified by profound social, economic, and environmental distress. The famine, the poverty, the constant fear of disease and divine wrath undoubtedly created an atmosphere ripe for such a powerful psychological outbreak. The tragic irony is that in their attempt to alleviate the suffering, the authorities' cure of more dancing likely solidified the mass hysteria, turning a desperate cry for help into a fatal performance. The dancing plague stands as a stark testament to the immense power of the human mind, both in its capacity for resilience and its terrifying susceptibility to collective delusion and psychosomatic manifestation under extreme duress. What happened in Strasbourg in 1518 forces us to confront the unsettling reality that our fears, our beliefs, and our collective anxieties can, under the right conditions, manifest in ways far more bizarre and terrifying than any explicit disease. It leaves us to wonder, what other hidden forces are at play within us, waiting for the perfect storm to unleash their terrifying dance? If you want to dive deeper into the strange corners of history, you'll find our next video exploring the unexplained disappearances of the Roanoke colony equally unsettling. The past, as it turns out, is full of mysteries that defy easy answers. If you want more mysteries like this, the next video will uncover the disturbing truth behind one of history's most extreme beauty standards, foot binding in Imperial China.